Hello, everyone, and welcome to For the Love of Animals, a presentation of Pinellas County Animal Services and Inspiration AM 1110 WTIS. I'm your host, Len Szynski from the Pinellas County Communications Department. For the Love of Animals is a celebration of our connection and commitment to all things animal-related in the Tampa Bay area. And during the next hour, we'll be sharing with you information about the animals we love and the services and programs provided by Pinellas County Animal Services. One of those services is animal adoptions. Fall is a busy time for Pinellas County Animal Services, and with me today to talk about why fall is the perfect time to add a new pet to your family is Jan Sebald, Program Specialist, Foster Rescue and Adoptions for Pinellas County Animal Services, along with Rusty Walker, Kennel Operations Manager for Pinellas County Animal Services. And welcome you guys very much to the program.
Thank you for having us, Lynn.
It's not often I get so much company, but it's good to have such a good representation of Pinellas County Animal Services on the program today. And we're going to start the show talking about pet adoptions. And I understand fall's a good time. There's a good selection at Animal Services. A lot of dogs and cats looking for new homes.
We have a lot of dogs and a lot of cats, but we have more dogs right now than we do cats. We just kind of came out of kitten season.
Earlier in the year,
we have lots of cats. So now we've got lots of dogs. And we have dogs of all sizes and shapes and kinds, and they're ready to go to their forever home.
And they are all looking to be adopted, I know. Rusty, what kind of dogs do you have the most of there?
Predominantly we have pit or pit mixes.
And that seems to be always the case. Yeah, those pit bulls are a bit notorious as far as getting difficult to be adopted.
True.
Some of them, pit bulls have gotten bad reputations, but quite frankly, we have talked a lot about pit bulls on this show, and they make adorable pets, don't they, Jan?
We have some great pits. We really do. All of our animals are behaviorally and medically tested before they go into adoption, so they're a great dog. They really are.
Let's talk about that a little bit. I know later on today's show, Dr. Caroline will be talking about some of the medical treatment that the pets go through, but they're pretty well cared for from the time they come into the shelter to the time that they get adopted. Is that correct?
Oh, that is correct. As a matter of fact, with our heartworm-positive dogs, we are one of the few municipal shelters that actually do the imidacide shots, which is the fast kill for heartworm.
Okay.
Because heartworm is really prevalent in Florida, and people need to know about heartworms and keep their dogs and cats on monthly heartworm preventative.
So when people find a dog or a cat and take that animal home, they know that it's in the best of health that could be possible.
Oh, yes. We provide all the shots. It's spayed. It's neutered. If it needs dental, it gets dental. I know Dr. Caroline has done an amputation if a dog needed something. I mean, we provide whatever the animal needs within our means that we can.
Now, if I'm in the market for a dog, Rusty, let's say I want to see what kind of dogs and cats are at Animal Services. Is there a way to kind of preview the selection before I actually get down to the facility?
Yeah, absolutely. Every night before closing, we have our adoption coordinator. He does a preview. He videos each and every one of the dogs. So that evening, you're able to actually view what we have online before you come in. But we always recommend that you come in.
Oh, of course.
It's much better, and you get the interaction, being in person and seeing the animals in person.
And one thing I love about Animal Services, we've talked about that a lot, is the fact that the staff serves as good guidance for what kind of dog will fit into your household. You may get all excited about a real nice little dog, but if you don't know that dog's going to grow up to be a nice big dog, it may not fit into your household plans. But the staff do a tremendous job of offering that guidance.
Yes, we try to do what's best for the dog, because we certainly want our dogs adopted and to leave the shelter and stay in their forever home forever and not be returned to us. So it's important to have a good match between the dog and the family.
And once again, the staff does a really, really great job of making sure that dog is going to be a happy part of the family. And a lot of things to consider. Once again, the space requirement. Dogs like to run if they're in the backyard. If a dog needs a lot of attention and you're working 40 hours a week, you may want to choose a breed that is going to be a little better off on its own. A lot of questions to be answered before you make the right selection.
True. And to add on what Jan said, and if you have a pet at home also, that's one thing you got to consider. And we encourage people to bring in their pet, chiefly if it's a dog, have the dogs interact, have a little meet and greet at the shelter versus having the meet and greet at your house.
Oh.
So if things go bad, we'd rather have it go bad at the shelter. But we encourage people to bring their dogs in if they're considering adopting another dog, so we do the meet and greet.
Well, that's a great option to have the current dog or cat at home be a part of the adoption selection process as well. So that's a great great option for people. Now, if I'm ready to make my choice, I found the perfect pet. Boy, oh boy, I'm really excited. Is there a lot of paperwork to fill out, or what do I have to go through before I'm able to take that dog home with me?
Well, you come into the shelter and you see all the animals that we have available for adoption. And let's say you're looking for a dog, you find the dog that you like, you come back out into the lobby and you fill out an adoption form, and then we just process that. We call to make sure that if you're renting, that the landlord approves that you can have a dog.
Good consideration.
There's a lot of apartments that say, no, you can't have a certain kind of breed because of insurance requirements, or, some places just don't want a pet. So we do that. If you're the owner of a home, we verify that with the county that you do own the property. If you're, like I said, if you're renting, we also call the landlord to make sure it's all right with the landlord, and then away you go. We certainly ask that if you have existing pets, cats or dogs, that they are licensed with Pinellas County.
Now, when I get my new dog home for the first time, Rusty, are there some precautions I should take or some procedures I should go through to acclimate that dog to its new environment?
Definitely, and I'll speak from experience because I have a 2-year-old yellow lab at home that I adopted from work. I definitely highly recommend crate training your animal.
Now, what is that exactly?
It's a metal crate that the dog stays in basically when you're at work, so it assists in potty training as well. It helps the animal to learn that there's cycles as far as potty breaks go in the morning before you go to work. When you come home, if you're able to come home on your lunch break, you want to let it out, obviously. But if not, after work you come home and you let the animal out of the crate, and then they're out for the rest of the evening. But also, you want to have chew toys. Definitely have chew toys. Either that or pick up your shoes and
put them in the top shelf of the closet. Yeah.
Lift it to a higher elevation. I have learned that with my lab.
Yeah.
But definitely provide chew toys, and crate training is essential.
So you want that dog to be happy in its new environment, feel comfortable,
Definitely.
and anything you can do to ease that transition is going to be good.
Definitely.
Now, we just talked about the fact that animals get a great medical treatment at the facility, but I understand that a trip to the vet is in order, one of the first orders of business.
Yes, we require that you take the pet that you adopt from us to the vet within 72 hours.
Okay. And that's good because the vet can sometimes find diseases that may not be manifest yet in the dog or cat. Or certainly you want to adopt a relationship, develop a relationship with the vet and your adopted animal right away as soon as possible so that you can keep your dog in the best of health.
Absolutely.
And that's absolutely important. We don't want dogs getting sick on us. How have adoptions been, like over the summer? I know August is a big push, the dog days of August into September.
Yes, and August starts our busy time for dogs. We seem to have a lot more dogs right now than we've had, let's say, last month. We're kind of overflowing at the shelter with animals, and we really want our viewers to think of the shelter as the place to go to adopt your cat or dog. We have great animals. Come to the shelter and adopt.
And, of course, there are a lot of, some of our partner agencies have adoption programs, too, and people might want to shop around a little bit. But, my goodness, with the selection of Pinellas County Animal Services, I know a lot of people, they go there, that's it, they go home with a new pet, and it's a wonderful experience for everybody.
Definitely.
Any new programs coming up, Rusty? Any new, maybe some improvements to the facility?
Yeah, I would definitely like to touch on, we've just recently completed a new project at the facility. It's a shade structure that we had installed in one of our isolation play yards. What it does, keep in mind, this project was funded out of the Animal Welfare Trust Fund, which is a great fund that anybody in the community can donate to.
There are a lot of donations that goes right to the concerns of the animals.
Yeah, so it goes for medicine for the animals. This particular project, it paid for the shade structure, which allows the animals to go out in this exercise yard. And they can exercise without being directly exposed to the sun.
Yeah, that's great.
So it extends their playtime out there so that they don't get overheated. And additionally, we just finished an upgrade to our camera system, which enables us to monitor the animals in our care.
Very important.
So I refer to them not as security cameras, but animal welfare cameras.
Of course.
So it allows us to monitor the animals, ensure they're being properly cared for, and if anything is wrong with the animals, we can see it fairly quickly.
Well, that's what makes Animal Services one of the premier places to go to get a new pet. You guys are always improving the situation there, all for the better of the animals.
Yep, it never stops. We're continually progressing.
All right, thanks so much, you guys. I'd like to thank my guests on this part of the program, Jan Sebald, Program Specialist, Foster Rescue and Adoptions for Pinellas County Animal Services, as well as Rusty Walker, Kennel Ops Manager for that same organization. And we would encourage our listeners, if you have any comments or questions on anything we've talked about on this program, send us an email, animals@pinellascounty.org, and we'll share your concerns on a future edition of For the Love of Animals. Well, we mentioned that the animals up for adoption at Pinellas County Animal Services get the best of medical care while they're at the facility. And coming up after the break, our own Dr. Caroline has all the details of just how well a pet gets treated. Stay with us. And we're back. Welcome back to For the Love of Animals, a presentation of Pinellas County Animal Services and Inspiration AM 1110 WTIS. I'm Len Szynski with the Pinellas County Communications Department. We're all familiar with our neighborhood veterinarian, and presumably, if you have a cat or a dog, you've established a relationship with the good doctor and a schedule of regular checkups, because regular veterinary care for any animal is very important. And when you're taking care of as many cats and dogs as they do at Pinellas County Animal Services, good veterinary care is an absolute priority. With me today to share some insight on the subject is our own Dr. Caroline. And Dr. Caroline, hello, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Len?
Good to have you aboard, as always, on this Saturday morning.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, you see a lot of animals come through animal services.
Sure
and
do.
It was kind of interesting to me. I know they go through a lot of medical. The little operating room that you have there, that facility is kept busy every single day just about. And I thought we'd talk about what sort of treatment an animal goes through by the time, from the moment they come into the facility to the time they're adopted out. How many medical experts look at them, and what kind of medical care do they receive?
Well, it's an excellent question, Lynn. And my medical team is comprised of myself, and I have 4 certified veterinary technicians. We also get some assistance from volunteers from St. Petersburg College of Veterinary Technology as well. And we all work together along with our kennel staff and animal control officers to observe health and notice issues so that we can be right on top of those as far as addressing them.
Now, I would imagine spaying and neutering is one operation that's performed very frequently.
It is. We spay and neuter animals on a daily basis, usually between 15 and 35 a day, Monday through Friday. And all of our animals that are put up for adoption or sent to our rescue partners or other shelters in the area are spayed and neutered prior to going out the door.
Everybody going through the door gets a rabies shot, I understand.
They do. Everybody leaving the facility is going to get a rabies shot. So that's part of it as well. And they're also issued a county license tag, which is required by law, to make sure that they get their ticket home so that we have that good information. If they're lost, we can track that license tag back and get them back to their owner.
Now, can people at home bring in their own pets to, say, have them spayed or neutered or to get rabies shots?
We do have a rabies vaccine and licensing clinic every Thursday from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. And so people can come in during that clinic and have their pets get the rabies vaccination and a county license. We do have a small program for cats for people on public assistance that need to have their kitty cats spayed or neutered. And people can come into our facility on Ulmerton Road and get more information about that.
Now, when an animal comes into the shelter, how is it evaluated? What do you look for as far as the medical condition?
Right, well, the first thing that we look at is, just kind of a general overall look. How are they doing? Are they showing any obvious signs of injury or disease? And if they are, they're immediately brought to the attention of my staff so we can evaluate them further. All dogs and cats that are friendly on intake are vaccinated, either dogs for distemper parvo and cats for upper respiratory infection to help control disease on a population level. And then if they have any medical issues or injuries that need to be addressed, we kind of do that on a case-by-case basis.
Now, when somebody takes the animal home, say an animal gets adopted, a dog or a cat gets adopted and goes home with a new owner, what should they look for in the new pet to indicate health, the health wherewithal?
Right. Well, one of the things that they should look for is overall attitude and appetite, and just that they're lively and alert, and that they're eating well are very good things. All of our adopters, when they adopt a pet, they agree to take that pet to their veterinarian within 72 hours. And so making sure that they comply with that is really important, because their veterinarian can review the health record that we send with each adopted pet to see what's been done, is there anything further that the animal needs, make sure that pet's in good health, because the veterinarian's best able to determine is there any signs of disease or anything else going on that needs to be addressed that maybe the regular layperson wouldn't notice.
Can the owner tell anything about the dog's or cat's health by the way the dog or cat acts, the behavior?
Sure, animals should be bright-eyed and alert. Obviously, there's going to be varying energy levels on the individual animal, but any change where you're seeing that they're more lethargic or less likely to play or less interested in food, all of those can be signs that, hey, maybe something's not right and we should go and talk with our veterinarian.
But you're saying go ahead and make an appointment right away, take that dog or cat to the vet right away. You said that there was a record of what you all did to the dog or cat, so the vet can be guided by that. Now, what might the vet be expected to find? What's the vet going to be looking for?
Well, they're going to be, doing an overall check. They're going to review that health record and see sometimes if you adopt a younger animal, they're going to need booster vaccinations just like children that we can't give at Animal Services just because they haven't been with us long enough. So that's important. A lot of times your veterinarian's going to check a stool sample to make sure that any deworming or parasite treatment that we gave at the shelter worked and there's nothing residual left in the stool that could cause problems for the animal or the people in the house. They're also going to check the pet to make sure when are they due for the next heartworm and flea preventive. We do that every month in every animal. But depending on how long the animal's been with us, if they were with us for 3 weeks, they might need their heartworm and flea preventive in another week, and veterinarian can kind of set that up.
Now, you told me an interesting story about heartworm, that sometimes you can't really nip it in the bud. You can't catch it right at the moment because heartworm takes a little while to incubate.
Well, basically, with some of our diagnostic tests, like heartworm tests and feline leukemia tests, which we perform on every dog and cat respectively, we do those tests when they're with us. And those tests, we make sure that those animals are negative before we put them up for adoption. But there is always the potential that an animal, and it's a very small potential, but an animal could be incubating one of those diseases. And so talking with your veterinarian about when a follow-up test should be done is always important, just to make sure that that pet isn't that small percentage of animal that might have tested negative but was really incubating the disease and test positive later on.
There are a lot of animals, dogs and cats at the facility in kind of close quarters, even though the cages and the pens are very comfortable. You have a lot of dogs and cats, and new dogs and cats are coming and going. Do they pick up things like kennel cough or upper respiratory diseases? Do they just pick those up kind of as a matter of course?
Well, it's definitely something that you see commonly in a shelter situation. And what people need to remember is that it's very rare that we get a healthy pet, that walks through our door. Most of the animals that come to us are a little underweight. They have parasites like fleas and intestinal parasites. Maybe they've been malnourished. Maybe they've been kept outside and haven't been treated properly. And they're very stressed out about this whole situation of coming into a new facility. And so they don't have the greatest immune system to begin with. And now we're going to throw them. And a lot of those pets have never been vaccinated before, so they don't have immunity that a lot of pets in homes would have. So now we're going to take them and we're going to throw them in a shelter facility, and I kind of liken it to, when your kid first started school or daycare. They start, now they're around all these other kids and they're doing everything they can, just like we do at the shelter, to keep things clean and isolate sick animals and all those sorts of things. But because they don't have an immune system and it's a new change, their immune system isn't functioning 100%. So they're much more likely, with all the new germs they're exposed to get a little bit of a cold, or in the case of a kitty cat, an upper respiratory infection. We do our very best to make sure that at the time of adoption, every animal is healthy at that time. But we don't have a good way to tell, are they incubating a cold that they're going to come down with a few days later or a few weeks later? And so that's why, looking for signs of a cold like nasal discharge, eye discharge, coughing, sneezing, and working with your veterinarian is very, very important. And most of the time, those infections are mild, just like when you and I get a cold. They don't typically require very much treatment, sometimes some antibiotics. But other than that, it's typically not a serious thing that the pet's dealing with. But we do see that, and that's definitely something to look for in your newly adopted pet.
Well, once again, it's something that the vet can clear up pretty quickly if he sees the dog or cat right away. So don't delay. Make that appointment right away. There's no way, I suppose, to guarantee the health of any living thing. If somebody adopts a dog or a cat from Animal Services, they might come down with a serious medical condition, something that just wasn't there when you had it, or something that you could not foresee. What are the owner's options if the dog is really, really sick, a week or so or a month later after they get it home from Animal Services?
Well, we always give people the option, they always have the opportunity to take the animal to their veterinarian and treat it. for whatever might come up. And we do our very best to make sure that those animals are healthy and that we've detected everything. But there's no way that we can see every potential thing that could happen with an animal or diseases that might develop in the future. The other option people have is they can bring the animal back to the shelter, and within 7 days of adoption, they can do that at no charge. After 7 days have gone by, they can surrender the animal back to us if they're unable to afford or deal with any medical or other issues that the pet has. And so they always have that option, and we always have that safety net. And then we'll evaluate those animals and determine, is there something we can do for them? Is there another group or a rescue group that can help these animals, depending on the severity and what's going on with that particular animal?
Well, as we've said so many times on this program, preventative care is the watchword, and you can do a lot as a pet owner to ensure that the dog or cat stays healthy. And once again, that first trip to the vet is so very, very important. Y'all have so many dogs and cats coming through there that, and it's amazing to me that you can give each one such individual attention, and I know you do.
Yeah, we do our best, and it takes a lot of time and effort, but we do everything in our power to make sure that we give those animals the best chance and the best start to really make them healthy and get them into their new homes and make them into a great, wonderful pet.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Caroline. Remember, if you have a question for Dr. Caroline, simply email it to us at animals@pinellascounty.org, and we'll give you an answer on a future edition of For the Love of Animals. Well, coming up after the break, we'll find out more information about the pets we love and some of the important programs provided by Pinellas County Animal Services. Stay with us. Welcome back to For the Love of Animals. I'm Len Szynski with the Pinellas County Communications Department. We mentioned numerous times on this program that Pinellas County Animal Services is always looking for volunteers to serve as foster pet parents to give temporary homes to some animals who need special care of one kind or another. Well, right now, our partner agencies in Pinellas County are looking for foster pet parents as well. And here to talk about their foster pet parent program is Melissa Revard, SPCA Tampa Bay Foster Coordinator, and SPCA Behavior Manager, Meg Montmeny. And you guys, hello, how are you? Melissa and Meg, I practiced saying your names here before we started this, and I'm glad I got it right.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Melissa, let me ask you this first off the bat. How many foster pet parents does the SPCA have, and how many more are you looking for?
Well, I'd say we have about 70 right now. About half of those are employees.
Well, yeah.
We don't have enough outside of the organization,
Okay.
and mostly our foster parents are for cats and kittens.
Yeah, sure.
And really what we're trying to promote is dog fosters because it's the hardest placement.
Now, Meg, let me ask you this. What is a foster pet parent? Why do you have them? Why do your animals need this temporary care?
One of my goals moving forward with our organization is to help more animals get to our adoption floor and find their new forever home. So with foster, the shelter can be very stressful for certain animals, and they really shut down and they withdraw and they're not real happy to see us anymore. So what we're trying to do is make sure that being in a foster home, and we address with the foster parent different behaviors that they can work on and help this animal really get set up for success.
So give me a list of reasons why a pet might need a foster care, Melissa. Now, we talked about those that are just going stir-crazy, being at the shelter too long, but I understand age has to do with it, maybe medical conditions. What are some of the other considerations?
Yeah, a lot of it is medical and behavioral. So you have, for medical reasons, for cats, it would be age, small kittens, larger cats with an illness like upper respiratory infection. For dogs, it would be long-term care for heartworm treatment, which can take 4 weeks, Demodex treatment, which can take up to 16 weeks, and then you have your basic skin infections, which could take a week or so, and a lot of these things take a very long time to treat, and they really shouldn't be at the shelter for that amount of time.
So what we're asking is somebody to take these pets in temporarily, give them a home in a regular home, in a human being's home, and give them individual care and attention until they heal up and until they're ready to come back to the shelter. And how do you know, if you're a foster pet parent, how do you know when it's time to return the pet to the shelter?
We let you know. I see all the animals on a regular basis for appointments for vaccines and medications, and Meg keeps in touch with them behaviorally. So we keep an eye on everybody who's out.
Now, Meg, I understand if I wanted to become a foster pet parent, I do have to go through some bit of orientation. Some classroom work, that sort of thing, some training, if you will. So tell me about what's required from a foster pet parent in that regard.
Well, let Melissa talk about medical side of things, but from the behavior aspect, I'm looking for dogs that may be shut down they're terrified in the shelter. So we give them all sorts of training tips. And one of my most favorite tools is a clicker, which is just like the dolphins at SeaWorld. They're trained the same way. So we're going to actually use it with our dogs. And it takes a picture of that's the behavior I like, and we're going to give them some treats afterwards. So from there, we're working on some dogs that might protect their food from us or might protect an object from us. There's different training elements that we can put into play and help this dog kind of move past that to become a really balanced dog.
Now, I understand this morning, as a matter of fact, today, when you guys leave the show here this morning, you'll be going to your puppy shower that's going on at the SPCA. It's kind of an orientation to new foster pet parents. So tell me what goes on, and this is the first of many that you have scheduled for the upcoming months, but what goes on at these puppy showers, kitty showers, and what do foster pet parents learn?
Oh, it's going to be so much fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
All right.
We are going to talk about all the different medical issues that the dogs may have and how to respond to it. We're going to give them an overview of our foster program and who to check in for what issue. Obviously, I will handle behavior things that may come up. Melissa can tackle anything medical. And we're going to really dive into all of that. I'm going to give our new foster parents a blueprint for what they can do for these heartworm positive dogs that will be with them for upwards of 4 weeks to make sure they stay happy and healthy, and give them some training, which in the end helps them get adopted faster and then land on their permanent placement.
And I think we have to underscore that, Melissa. The fact, the reason we're doing all this is that so when the dog comes back, it's healthier, it's happier, it's more able to interface with the visitors that come to the center, and it's more likely to go home with one of them.
Correct. A lot of people don't really want to take on that project permanently, so if we can kind of take care of most of those things while they're in foster care and not sitting at the shelter in a kennel for 4 weeks, we can get them, like Meg said, on the clicker, learning their basic commands and ready to go home forever. Is
there a turnover rate with your foster pet parents? Once people get in the program, do they stay with the program, or do you have a turnover rate? You're always looking to fill positions.
Well, like I said, dogs have always been a problem in the past just because they are quite a bit of work and you have other animals in the home usually when people foster. When people start the program, they usually don't leave unless they are moving or they have family obligations or such things. But typically over the past year and a half, I haven't had very many leave for no reason.
Can people foster more than one pet at a time?
Well, you could foster a litter of kittens. If you have a dog, you would typically keep one dog unless it's a litter of puppies. But it's the way they came in is usually the way we keep them until they go up for adoption.
Because I was amazed, Meg, that a lot of people with more than one pet at home so love pets that they will open their hearts and accept one of these foster pets just because they're helping that dog to get adopted.
Absolutely. It's a feel-good opportunity. You're doing something to help an animal that we're giving them a better opportunity and a more involved opportunity to then move forward and help them find that new person.
Can you choose your foster pet, or are there like pets to be assigned to these foster pet parents?
We assign them.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah, everything.
And based on what? Based on what? What's the criterion?
Based on the things that I talked about earlier, the medical need or the behavioral need. There may be a case where, Meg finds an animal that just needs some socialization. Having other animals in the home or children is excellent socialization for those animals because it makes them more open to their possibilities of a forever home. But then there's the medical reasons, which would be why I would place them, because we have to do their evaluation medically before we place them.
Now, are you guys on call if I've got a foster pet at home with me and something happens in the middle of the night? Do I have a way to get a hold of one of you guys?
That's actually all Melissa.
So it's all Melissa. She's up in the middle of the night waiting for the phone to ring. So.
Actually, no. We have a 24-hour ambulance and investigation department,
okay.
And they take the brunt of those calls. And it very rarely happens, but when it does, we are available 24/7. There is an access line for them to call directly, and they will. They have their local emergency clinics near them that they can take them to that we have a relationship with.
Well, that's great. I always thought, talked to a lot of pet parents here on the program from our own Pinellas County Animal Services, and they fall in love with these dogs, and some of these dogs are so adorable, and yet they have to give them up at some point in time. They have to give them back with the hope that somebody else will fall in love with that animal and take it home. I would imagine that's the toughest part of being a pet parent. Would you agree with me?
It is. That's actually not too uncommon. It is something that I do go over in my training because I highly advise against it, just because there are more animals that need help.
Sure.
I always remind them, keep in mind that if you keep this animal and you can't foster anymore, you can't help save anymore. So and it is good that they save that one animal, but my goal is always quantity, to save more to get to the next animal. One of the really cool things that we started with the foster program is called the Available Foster Program, where you can keep the animal in your home as available for adoption, and you get to be included in the whole adoption process and meeting the new adopters, so that way you feel more comfortable releasing this animal to their forever home, and you get to take a part in that.
Well, that brings up a good question. When an animal goes back to the shelter, do they sometimes relapse and have to be re-fostered out?
It's happened, but typically, actually, with the available foster, I actually keep them in the home available.
Okay.
So they don't really have to come back. That's kind of the goal is with foster, is that they're not at the shelter, because being there is not a good place for them.
What's your success rate, Meg? Have you kept statistics of how many fosters that go out, to foster homes, they come back and they get adopted? What's your success rate with that?
Oh, that's a
Really?
great
No,
question.
you don't know that? Okay.
I'm going to go probably 90%.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's
All right.
high.
Yeah.
We really...
Yeah, it's very rare that we ever have to, not put them up for adoption while they're in foster, and normally it has to do with medical reasons, because they become extremely ill for whatever reason, and it's usually very small kittens that we're having trouble nursing.
Well, I was going to ask you that. If I have a foster pet and sometimes it just doesn't work out, I mean, sometimes the dog and the human, they just don't match. Is there a recourse? Can I bring the dog
Absolutely.
back? Yeah,
Absolutely.
Are you pretty good with
You're
that?
not obligated to that animal forever at all.
Okay. All right. Well, now, if somebody were interested in participating in the program, what should they do?
Well, for the puppy shower, for anybody who's interested in canine fostering, definitely come see us at the shower today.
Okay.
And,
What time is that shower going to be?
It starts at noon.
Okay, so
And it'll be till 2
this
p.m.
this program is over at noon, so you guys have just a second or two to get back to your place there. But it starts at noon today, and of course you have other shower events coming up in the months to come. And just to check the website to find out the calendar for that, and give me that contact information too, because that's important.
Absolutely. It's SPCATampaBay.org, and you can see on our front page what our upcoming events are. But you can also email the foster coordinator, myself, at foster@spcatampabay.org, and contact me anytime if you're interested in fostering. You don't always have to wait for an orientation.
So let's go over that information again. The website is
spcatampabay.org,
and the telephone number is
727-586-3591,
and the email address is
foster@spcatampabay.org.
All right. Well, good luck to you, and good luck to all those dogs and cats at the SPCA Tampa Bay that need foster homes and maybe need a little respite from the kennel environment.
Yes.
All right. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank my guests this time around, Melissa Revard and Meg Montmeny from SPCA Tampa Bay. They're promoting their foster care programs. Well, coming up after the break, we go to the mailbag to answer some questions about animals in Pinellas County when we come back. Well, we're back. Welcome back to For the Love of Animals, a presentation of Pinellas County Animal Services at Inspiration AM 1110 WTIS. I'm your host, Len Szynski, and joining me right now is John Hohenstern, Senior Animal Control Officer at Pinellas County Animal Services. John, how are you today?
Really good, Len. How are you this morning?
And you have had an interesting morning, I understand, so it's good that we have you here to kind of give you a break from the hectic activities of Pinellas County Animal Services.
Yeah, I want to say a big thank you to all the animal control officers out there that do the job every day. I was out on the road for a while today, and it was
every
awesome.
now and then you
hectic.
realize they all get bonuses now because they do a tremendous job, and
Yeah,
that's what we represent by this mailbag here. A lot of the problems that come into animal services, and your animal control officers have to respond to them. So to get right to it, I have an email here from Lisa up in the Greenbrier neighborhood of Pinellas County, and we talk about this a lot. Animals other than dogs and cats, because people think animal services encompasses everything, but this is a recurring problem in this Greenbrier neighborhood, John, about peacocks. She is writing today, it says here, to beg assistance with a long-term and ever-growing problem in my neighborhood, peacocks. Our cars are being damaged, she says here. Our tile roofs are broken, our yards trashed. On top of everything else, she says here, people come to our street and trespass on our property, feeding the birds as if our homes were a public park or a petting zoo. People on my street, some of the surrounding area, they're very angry. They don't have $30 to $40 per bird to pay a trapper. Animal control, she says, has assisted in the past, but it makes it so very hard to get someone ticketed for feeding the birds. Okay, so there are a lot of questions here. Number one, and this is a perennial problem in this neighborhood. I understand there used to be a farm or something up there, and some of these peacocks got loose, and now they have proliferated. But what do people do? I mean, this poor lady, what do you do in a case like this?
Well, the people that are coming into the neighborhood and feeding the birds, that's a problem. If we can locate them, I mean, even if they can give us a tag number that we can move on to the sheriff's office to try to do it. But, placing food or garbage out to where it attracts
that's
animals
half the problem, I would imagine.
That's a violation. It's considered a public nuisance. We can do something with that. Physically about the birds, no, we primarily deal with domestic dogs and cats, and they would have to hire a wildlife trapper or rehabber to come and relocate them.
Now, suppose I went online and I found a peacock trap, if there is such a thing, and I trapped the birds in my yard. What would I do with those birds after I trapped them?
That's a good question.
Go back to the internet to try to find the answer to that, I guess.
Or maybe if somebody actually wants peacocks.
Maybe one of the local TV stations. I don't know. But is there a policy against relocating a bird in Pinellas County?
Well, see, this would be a Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission thing. Usually they don't like relocating an animal, because when you take an animal out of its territory and you put it into another animal's territory, there usually means there's going to be some sort of fight to the death or fight over the territory, and somebody's going to end up really losing.
So it's against policy. I mean, don't take these peacocks to Walsingham Park or anything like that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Well, a lot of people think that's the solution.
No, that would not be a solution.
All right, so I'm afraid, wish we had better news for Lisa, but a trapper who can trap these birds and relocate them professionally is going to be her best bet. The neighbors are going to have to pitch in and pay for that.
Or somehow to get in contact with these people that are feeding them and encouraging them to stay there and giving them, a reason to hang out there.
Yeah.
Because, you stop feeding the birds, they'll move on.
Yeah, well, okay, so we got a lot of problems there, but perhaps one of those solutions, as you said, there's no regulation against feeding wildlife, but it becomes a nuisance. That's against code.
Yes.
All right. Kim from Largo wants to know, her dogs are licensed in Pinellas County, she says, but she's moving to Lee County, and she wants to know if they have to get re-tagged down there. Now, that's a good question. We are constantly exhorting people to keep up the database with Pinellas County Animal Services, but if I am moving from one county to another, does my license move with me, like the license tag on my car, or is it a whole new ballgame in the new county?
It's a whole new ballgame in the county. When she gets to Lee County, she'll have to relicense them with Lee County.
Like right away?
Well, yeah, I mean, if the dogs get loose in Lee County with a Pinellas County tag and all her information comes back to Clearwater, but she really lives, and we get calls from all over the country with people that find animals with our tags, and we're like, well, this is a really old tag, and I'll give you the information, but, So, as soon as possible or whatever. As a matter of fact, in our ordinance, we say within 30 days of moving into the county, you should get your dog or cat, licensed.
And, of course, update that microchip as well.
Yep. So everybody knows, you keep it current so everybody can go home.
And, boy, a new home. A dog is in a new environment. If he gets loose just a little bit, he won't be able to find his way home, and that's a real vulnerable time for an animal to get lost.
Yeah, that's right, because he's not familiar with anything. Everything smells different, so, yeah.
Yeah, so absolutely. There's a lot of things to do when you first move into a new house, but as soon as you get the electricity turned on, get that dog tag registered in the proper county.
Right.
All right, Summer from St. Petersburg says, last week she was bit by a feral kitten. Whoa, I think Summer has some problems here to deal with, right, John?
Well, yeah, especially because, in the last couple of months, there have been cats that have tested positive for rabies in both Pasco and Hillsborough County. But it all kind of depends on the circumstances and the severity of what's going on. I'm, probably pretty sure that the kitten just didn't run up to Summer and bite her.
Yeah, feeding the kitten
or trying to pet the kitten, and so, it was a little bit of provoked. But anytime a human being's bitten by a dog or a cat, it needs to be located and quarantined for a period of 10 days just to rule out the rabies risk to the human being.
And I think that was the essence of her letter here. Further on down, she wanted assistance in locating this cat, but you told me at one point in time that that's not going to make a difference. You don't know that it's the same cat.
Right. Unless you're absolutely sure that this is the cat. If it's, a litter of 5 kittens and you don't know which one of the 5 kittens, as long as we have all 5 kittens,
Yeah.
we'll just hold on to them for the 10 days. But yeah, if it's a stray cat and there are other look-alike stray cats, yeah, we'd advise you to consult with your family doctor about rabies treatment.
Absolutely, and she better do this right away, because once you come down with symptoms, I understand it's too late.
Yes.
And it's very, very serious, very, very serious situation that Summer finds herself in. All right, Leslie finds herself in a situation, too, in Pinellas Park, where she had a horse. Apparently the horse died. Now, she says she owns 5 acres in Pinellas Park, and she wants to find out if it's okay to bury a horse on the property. Well, first of all, let's start with dogs and cats. Is that okay to bury your dog and cat in your backyard?
Yes, it is, as long as they're at least they're buried under 2 feet.
Okay.
So nothing can get to them. So yes, that is true. The horse question we didn't really know about when we got, and we kind of referred her on to the city of Pinellas Park.
Well, I was talking to Jan Tracy a couple of weeks ago on this program, and there is an incredible guide on the Pinellas County /Utilities website called the A to Z Guide, the way to dispose of everything A to Z. And sure enough, I went on the guide, and sure enough, there was a listing for dead horses.
Wow.
And sure enough, if you have room out there in the back, under 2 feet of earth, you can bury your horse in the backyard,
Learn
or your
something
cow,
today.
or your bison, or whatever you have out there.
Wow. Well, it's a good thing she's got 5 acres.
So 5 acres is just enough room, I think. All right, Leslie, so there's the answer to that question. Okay, Jeff from St. Petersburg has a question here, and I get this one a lot. Abandoned house. There's an abandoned house in the St. Petersburg neighborhood, and apparently the person moved out and abandoned her chickens, which is the problem with backyard chickens. Sometimes people don't take them with them when they move. And a cat. He says the chickens are starting to roam the other yards. The cat runs the neighborhood. But I see a lot of this where somebody moves out and leaves the dog or the cat in the vacant house, and it looks like they may be coming back, or somebody may be coming over to feed the dog or cat. But there's a dog or cat in this house, and there's no human beings in this house. How do you handle a situation like that?
We'll get the complaint. We'll go out to the house, see if there is a dog inside. If there is, what we'll do is we'll post all the doors with what we call a 24-hour notice. We'll say, hey, look, we've got a complaint that this dog is abandoned. We're out here at 10 a.m. on the 19th of September. We're going to come back at 10 a.m. on the 20th of September. If we haven't heard from somebody that they're taking care of this dog, we'll do everything we can to remove the dog. And usually somebody who comes back, comes in late at night when everyone's asleep to feed the dog, will see the notice and they'll call us, in the next morning.
Does that simple act of abandoning an animal like that constitute cruelty or neglect?
Well, not as long as somebody's coming over to take care of it. I mean, if it goes 24 hours and we haven't heard from anyone that's taking care of the animal, then yeah, it could.
Okay. Because you can't leave an animal to the kindness of strangers, and I'm sure some good-natured neighbors might, in fact, do that. Come over and leave food and water just to make sure the animal survives.
And they do, whatever, and then you find out, well, the dog's been here for 2 weeks, but I've been feeding it, and I was waiting for him to come home, but, then they never came back for the dog.
All right, last question here from Shad. Doesn't say where he is, but he was driving on Bryan Dairy Road. He encountered one of your drivers, John, not paying attention to the road. It says here the driver did not yield, proceeded to move to the middle lane. He cut off this other driver. He acted like he did nothing wrong. His laptop was up, it says here, and it looks like he was paying attention to his laptop instead of paying attention to the road. Now, this is a pretty serious charge, and I know it came into your agency, and I know you guys kind of had a little different story to tell.
Yeah, the officer this happened to, whatever, actually reported the incident while it was happening to his supervisor over the radio, and it was kind of the absolute opposite is what our driver was saying. And the trucks have GPSs on them. Okay. And I think one of the complaints is that he was speeding. And,
maybe.
And according to the GPS, he wasn't.
Okay.
So, we live in a densely populated county. There's all kinds of, traffic and cones up and everything. I mean, we try to do, as good of a job as we can. Sometimes in the trucks, I mean, those dog trucks are tough to drive. Perhaps the perception that, we came over when we shouldn't have, we'll apologize. But, it's kind of tough to be out there and and do everything, correctly all the time. We're human too.
Okay, but if you see anybody speeding around, do jot that number down and give us a call, because we don't want any reckless drivers out there.
Correct.
Well, that brings us to the end of our program. I want to thank our guest this time around, John Hohenstern, Senior Animal Control Officer with Pinellas County Animal Services. You have been listening to For the Love of Animals, presented by Pinellas County Animal Services and Inspiration AM 1110 WTIS. Be sure to be with us next Saturday, 11 a.m., right here on Inspiration 1110 AM WTIS. If you have any questions or comments on anything we've talked about on this program, just send us an email at animals@pinellascounty.org. Well, once again, thanks for listening. I'm Len Szynski with the Pinellas County Communications Department. Join us next time for the Love of Animals.